So how do we scale this up? I think the answer has to be much more than be resilient. Because that's really saying, I want you to be really good at taking a hit. And while resiliency matters, how about they shouldn't be hitting us so much? Right? So here's some of the Jedi Council in Mille, Minnesota. That's in the central part of the state, so it's one res south from where I live. I went to this, and by the way, Mille is really interesting. They're one of the communities that was under tremendous pressure. They could only take allotments on a different reservation at White Earth. 2/3 of their population moved to White Earth. Even in the 1900s, the local sheriff came and burned all their houses and wigwams down and said, look, you're homeless, go to White Earth. They couldn't take any land allotments in Mille until 1926. 1926. They had to stay landless in their own land. Today, they're one of the most successful gaming tribes in the country. And even when they were living in abject poverty at the advent of the first casino, they saved 50 cents out of every dollar. Today, their endowment has eclipsed gaming as a revenue stream. Over $1 billion in their endowment, and it produces more money than a casino. They bought a bunch of hotels in the Twin Cities metro. They said, why are we banking our money at a white-owned bank? So they bought the bank, and they operate a bank, and all kinds of stuff. So that was pretty cool. I came to this meeting, and it was maybe a couple years before the pandemic. And they said, we have allocated some money for workforce development. But we want to reimagine workforce development because we don't only want to train people to be a good gas station attendant. We want to train them for the jobs we really need. We need curriculum developers. We need language teachers. We need videographers. We need people who know tech. And what do you got? They're fishing for ideas. And at that time, they had also done a language survey and identified only 25 remaining fluent first speakers of the language in all of Mille, and they were all over 70 years old. So, not the easiest place to start. I said, you're not going to send them all to college, get some new credentials, start a new school, and have them work for you there for the next 30 years. I think we're going to have to do something different. So I said, how about this? You ever hear of Babbel, Duolingo, or Rosetta Stone? Let's do a Rosetta Stone. Let's build some language tools that will push to an app on someone's phone. I bet every kid on the res has a phone, no matter how impoverished they are. And it can push to an app there, but it can be populated by video, audio, and other things developed and spoken by your first speakers. And let's teach them some Ojibwe. Through the process of developing this, let's teach the kids how to be videographers and everyone else. Let's teach others how to be curriculum developers, and we will build the people while we build the thing. I said, let's do a literacy initiative, but let's do it in our language. Monolingual Ojibwe books for the immersion schools. And it was a cool cross-section of different folks that we pulled together. They looked at each other, and I had a bunch of other ideas too. They looked at each other and they said, well, let's do all of it. Great meeting. We ended up assembling a team of 50 people to work on Rosetta Stone. We assembled a team of 50 people to work on the books. There's more to the mechanics and even the conversations we had to have about building something like Rosetta Stone. Like, are you serious? Do you want to give a non-native corporation a copyright over our language material to profiteer off of our attempted colonization when they've taken so many things from us and blah, you know? What if there's a new tribal election and The new tribal government says, why are they spending so much money on language? Pull it all away. Right? We anticipated all these things. I was very proud even of the contract we developed, which said that the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe will retain the copyright. That if there are any fees to be assessed to anyone, they will be collected by the Mille Lacs Band, not Rosetta Stone. They're just going to get paid for a service. And if Mille Lacs wants to give everybody's grandkids copies of everything their grandparents recorded, then they're free to do so. It can be repurposed any which way they please. We put in punitive escape clauses and prepaid Rosetta Stone for the contract so that if anyone would try to claw the money out, there's no way to get the money back out. And then all of the elders and everyone else would be paid directly by Rosetta Stone. All the things we anticipated happened. Someone said, I want the recordings of my grandpa. Here you go. Someone new got elected to tribal council, said, why are they spending so much money on that? I'm yanking the money and, oh, I can't. They made it free for all their band members. Nominal fee for the rest of the world. Even with their nominal fee, they're going to recuperate their entire investment over the life of the project, and it will have cost them $0. We got to work on the books, and there's more to say about the mechanics of that, but it was cool. I've done a lot of publishing, and so I convinced our State Historical Society press to publish all the books, even though no one on their staff could read the books. That was cool. That was a vote of confidence in who was working. And that puts the books in print in perpetuity, not we got to print a box and carry it around in the back of the station wagon, and then when that person dies, we have no idea how to get them. Lots of things. They also bought copies for all band members, which made the press happy. We had to work through the pandemic, which meant sending a grandchild and a computer to everybody's home. And it was ridiculous. This is where a lot of these gray hairs come from. But I called Carol one time. I was like, hey, asin gadan no kimin. Oh, tagish wago shingi wanenda najan busy kan babisi kawaga natage bagamigung indeja. So I'm telling her, like, hey, it's time for our work session. She goes, well, Wagosh, I forgot. I got my coat on. I'm going to the casino. I said, casino, there's a pandemic. You're supposed to stay home. She goes, well, the language is more important. Let's work. So she takes her coat off. We're on Zoom. And we did our work session. It was like 3 hours. And then she goes, well, I'm going to the casino now. My niece has been waiting in the car the whole time. Middle of the winter. Also did not come in to check. You know. They're ridiculous. But so dedicated. And 6 of their fluent speakers passed away during the pandemic. That's 20% of their fluent speakers. Boy, that made it tough. Not just the losses, but all the people who said, I don't want to wear a mask. I'm okay if I get sick. Well, are you okay if you get sick and give it to one of these people? Because that's what you're risking. You're not just risking you, you're risking someone else. That was hard that people didn't want to see it that way. When we finally came out of the pandemic and it was getting safer and we could reconvene, we had an event to celebrate the new books and Rosetta Stone and things like that. And we asked Joe Naquinabe to speak. He's on the end here, one of the ceremonial drum chiefs. And he said, you know, and he had lost a brother and a sister during the pandemic. And he said, you know, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot the past few years, but we've been through a lot the past few hundred years. And I got to say, seeing all of these young people coming around, seeing what we've been able to build, knowing that our elders will be teaching people our language for hundreds of years to come, I have to say that this has been the happiest time of my life. Remember the Blackfeet example. It's not about your individual attainments, but your ability to contribute to something bigger that provides the greatest meaning and to contribute to cultural perpetuity that gives healing. This was healing for our elders. This was so empowering and healing for the young people who got involved with this project, who are all language warriors in the community making things happen. It was really positive. Well, government can say, we have thousands of employees, native and non-native. We expect all of them to demonstrate this level of competency in our language. Here's the tool to do it. The assessments are built right in. You have 1 year from date of hire. Welcome to our native nation. So language is about sovereignty, not just pretty birds singing in a forest. It's about health.